Like any technical discipline, there are specialty terms that apply in law. It may not dissimilar from mathematics or advanced physics or engineering. The reason why this is an issue is that, unlike those other disciplines like physics, legal language affects non-specialists all the time because people are involved in lawsuits, or they have to read contracts, or they have deeds on their house, and the language is embedded in all those documents, and it's hard to understand. And it's often frustrating for lay people to encounter this kind of language because it affects their lives directly, unlike, for example, quantum physics, which most people can ignore safely. So this leads to a great deal of frustration with clients and lay people who are interacting with the law perhaps for the first time. And it's an understandable frustration. There's certainly been a great deal of effort to modernize and use plain language in law to reduce this sort of barrier between the lawyers and the documents and the people who have to utilize them. Unfortunately, some of the language that we use is really artifacts of ancient history that have no current legal bearing, but they become habituated. Attorneys will use the same words over and over, sometimes not realizing that they're not necessary because they're anxious that if they leave out one of the words, it might have some impact on the effectiveness of the document, when in fact it has no meaning whatsoever. The best example of this goes back to 1066, when William the Conqueror became the first Norman king of England. And with the arrival of the Norman French, French became the language of court, and so the lawyers had to adapt to use a French word so that the court would understand, and an Angle word for their clients to understand. So, for example, when you see at the head of a will, it says will and testament. Those words mean exactly the same thing. One's a French-derived word and one's an English-derived word. And there's a variety of these sort of double terms that remain embedded in legal documents, most of which could be gotten rid of quite safely. So what we are left with is, just like particle physics, a complex, technical discipline with a lot of specialty language that sometimes can't be made more simple. It's an important part of my job, and I think the job of many lawyers, to assist their clients, not just to understand the language, but also the complexity of the systems in which they find themselves once they have a legal problem, and it's a privilege to do that.